Welcome to Wealth Roadmap with Jeff and Steve, your guide to simplifying wealth management. Join us as we explore financial planning, taxes, investments, insurance, and legal frameworks to help you secure your financial future. Well, everyone, welcome to episode 1 of the Wealth Roadmap. My name is Jeff Costello. I am one of your hosts along with Steve Benny, who's on your screen. And if you're listening, Steve really has a great face for radio. So this is probably best on Spotify or Apple or whatever it might be.
No bad.
And if you're wondering what today's episode is on,
Please,
it's about having a plan. More specifically around creating, obviously, wealth, regards to financial planning, retirement planning, and everything like that. And if you're wondering if Steve and I have a plan for today's podcast, we really don't. We're winging it. But you have two great financial advisors who are going to talk about a few different key concepts when it comes to creating that plan around your finances. Steve, any questions before we hop in?
No, you're doing a wonderful job, Jeff. Keep it going. I would say, what our goal here in the podcast is to be able to, we recognize that getting the information out there is key for everybody. So our goal is really to be able to give and simplify some of these topics that we're going to talk about so that you can use it, so that the guidance, the insights that we provide will help you, will help your family. And that's really why we're here. So jump right into it, Jeff. What do we got?
All right. So the first concept we're going to talk about is goal clarity on, when it comes to creating or around any plan, around anything that you want to do, right? You need to have a plan. My analogy in this situation is if you're going to, let's say, a wedding that's out of state, maybe it's 2 hours away. Well, first, you got to know where you're going, right? And if you know where you're going, and it's, again, Google Maps or Waze tells you that it's 2 hours away, it's a lot easier to plan, right? So if the wedding starts at 2 o'clock, you know that you have to leave at 12. But depending on, hey, is there going to be rush hour or are things going to come in the way? Do I have to get gas? Maybe we'll leave a little bit earlier to give us some leeway there. So when it comes to creating a financial plan, you have to know where you want to get to. So Steve, talk to me about when you're speaking with clients or people that are, approaching you about creating, let's say, a retirement income plan. Is it often, not often, that people come to you and they know exactly what they want retirement to look like?
Yeah, well, listen, I think you brought up a good point there with the takeaway from that analogy. By the way, Jeff's king at analogies. You can hear a lot of those coming, let me tell you. Is the kind of what if, or I think you mentioned, what if I need gas or something along those lines. And I think that's the biggest thing is planning for kind of those what ifs. And, look, at the end of the day, the risk in retirement planning isn't dying too soon, right? It's living too long. The longer you live, the more risks that you're going to come across and you're going to see. So a lot of times when we sit with people, it's just having those conversations, and no, not everyone has an idea of exactly what they want their plan to look like. But that's where having a conversation, talking through some of those challenges, some of those concerns, some of the goals that they want. I know it sounds cliche, but it's true. Ultimately, in order to get the plan the right way, we first really have to understand kind of where you are today, what you want retirement to look like. But the big thing is, what are some of the concerns or priorities that you have that are important to you, right? That's the key. Let's focus on that. Everyone's different. Every plan is different, but focusing on that first. If you're talking with any professional, ultimately, they really have to get a better idea of what it is that you want and what it is that you have as that big concern. Long-winded answer to say, I think that's the most important thing is the what ifs, plan for the what ifs, making sure that, the person you're speaking with understands what could happen and what risks they may be able to face. A lot of times, sometimes we're not familiar with the risks that can occur.
So when we're talking about creating that plan, right, the big important I guess I don't want to say elephant in the room, but object that we need is that destination, right? So what does retirement look like? So what are some things that, whether someone is working with an advisor or trying to do it on their own, what are some things that you're talking to your clients about? Like, hey, we need to know, for example, how much money you need per month. So what are those destination like items that we need when you're creating a retirement income plan, for example?
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of like the client that we were working with, Jeff, right? At the end of the day, there are points that we want to make sure that we uncover and that we get to make sure the plan works the way it's supposed to. So expenses, big one, huge one. And it's hard to sometimes nail exactly what that expense number is, but a plan is not something that's set in stone. You're going to monitor it, you're going to manage it, right? Like we always talk about, Jeff. So, I'll say expenses is the top one, and monthly net, right? Monthly or yearly, we'll add back, or whoever you're speaking with should be able to add back taxes and have a software kind of to project what those taxes would look like. And the other thing is inflation, another key one, right? So making sure that whatever inflation number you choose, whether it's 2.5, 3, some people like to see 4%, but whatever that number is, include that and make sure that those expenses are being adjusted for inflation. What else, Jeff? What do you? That's top of mind for me.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of what we want retirement to look like. I think one of the biggest parts about why someone needs a financial plan is there's really no do-overs in retirement, right? And you talk a lot about that in the different seminars that you put out. If I have a plan to like, hey, I'm going to redo my bathroom, and this is exactly what I want it to look like, right? That's my destination. I want it to look like, this picture that I found on Pinterest, and I start taking a hammer and I start breaking things down, and all of a sudden it doesn't look that great. I could say, hey, you know what? About time I'm going to call a contractor and come in and actually fix it and give me that destination, that end result that I was looking for. Tell me, it's a lot different with retirement, right? Because if I mess up, what am I doing?
Yeah, Jeff, no, that's a big one. And I kind of related again. Look at me coming with an analogy right here, but it's you've heard this story once or twice. I big athletic guy, started surfing and tried surfing. I won't get into the full story, maybe one day. But the bottom line is, I tried surfing by trying to do everything. Thought I was ready. Went on Google, read all the articles, watched all the videos, went out and completely just wiped out. It was terrible. Broke my surfboard. My wife had told me to get lessons prior to me going, and I said, nah, I don't need lessons. How hard could it be? Well, let me tell you, it was, for anyone who's ever surfed, all right, it's a challenging sport. So essentially what happened was I said, you know what? I got to get lessons. I got to find someone who is an expert. And they taught me a lot of the things that, I should have learned. And I should have known prior to going out. And in the end, by having that individual that I worked with, that coach, saved me time, saved me money, and he allowed me to have a do-over. But like you mentioned, in retirement, there are no do-overs. So a lot of the mistakes that could happen could cause you either to run out of money or not have money that you thought you would, whether it's the risk that, whether it's a tax issue, whether it is a sequence of returns issue, a healthcare issue, and our plan is to start diving as we go through these podcasts and episodes to dive into a lot of these different risks. Or simply put, you just may run out of time to plan. It's just like planning for anything. If you wait too long to do it, you don't have enough time, you can't get it done.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big thing, running out of time, and possibly not having the assets that you thought, whether it's to leave behind to children, whether it's to provide to a charitable cause that's near and dear to your heart. And really, you could have, if you don't have the right plan done, it could wipe out that retirement of your dreams. So just a few, right? So I'm sure you have a few things to add to that, but I think it's a great point you made, Jeff. And I think that's really the purpose of the plan.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing when it comes to creating a financial plan, or again, any plan for that matter, is knowing what the destination looks like. And all too often people come in our doors, hey, we want to retire at 65. And then we start to ask them, what does retirement look like? You retire, and then what? Are we going on a vacation? Because if we're going to go on a vacation, how much are we going to spend on this vacation? Right now, we always talk about, Steve, what's the most expensive day of someone's week? Saturday, right? Or Sunday, because you're out, you're spending money, right? You're not at work or recording a podcast, right? It's hard for me to make purchases right now on Amazon or order an extra appetizer, right? Because we're working. So when you retire, every day becomes a Saturday. And so if every day is a Saturday, that means, most likely, again, you're not going to want to sit in the house and just, twiddle your, fingers and watch, reruns of Friends or whatever it might be, right? You want to get out, you want to explore. Maybe you're going to pick up a new hobby, whether it's pickleball, or if you want to call up Jeff Costello and go golf, whatever the situation is, but every day is going to get more expensive. So when you're coming in and you're saying, hey, I want to retire at 65. Okay, great. What does it look like? All right, well, we have our mortgage, we have our taxes, we have, food, we have all these fixed expenses, cell phone, all that different stuff, everything that you have now. But now that every day is a Saturday, what's going to go above and beyond that? Maybe, again, it's those few extra vacations, those bucket list trips. And so, again, it's important for whether I'm the advisor, you're doing it yourself, you're working with another advisor, to know, okay, hey, John and Jane, they need, $150,000 a year net. And then at that point, that's where the, professional or yourself is hopefully calculating in taxes. And then what's the best way in terms of how you're going to be deducting that money from which accounts, whether it's retirement accounts or whether it's post-tax accounts, savings. So you're getting that money from a pension, so many different factors. So that's going to lead me to, I guess, my next point.
Wait, before you go there, because that's a good point. Like, because the expense thing is one of those things, right? Most times, or at times, that's who really does expenses, right? Not many people do budgets, right? And so when they're sitting down, and all of a sudden we're sitting there, or whoever you're talking to is sitting there and saying, what are your expenses? It could be one of those things where it's paralysis by analysis, right? It could be, it could cause you not to move forward because the task just seems too daunting. And I get it. It's not fun creating a budget. So, Jeff, throw some ideas there as far as, in order to get around that, so that if someone who doesn't really have an idea of what their expenses are, what are some simple or easier ways so that isn't a cause to have the planning process be delayed? Yeah.
Great question. So I mean, obviously, I'm sure there's some people that would rather get a root canal than go through their line items and try to create a budget, right? I know my wife would probably rather get that root canal, that's for sure. So I think one of the easiest things to do is to look at your current income today. So if you have income, if you're working and you have money coming in, and we look, before, you save money into your 401k, before you pay for the company-based health insurance, all that different stuff, what are we bringing in net? Oh, well, Jeff, I'm clearing $10,000 in net. That's what's actually hitting my bank account after all those different deductions. Okay, well, is that enough to pay for your current bills? Yeah, no, we flush, it's even. Okay, so let's just pretend that we need $10,000 a month net, and then we're going to add on to that the taxes, the cost for Medicare or health insurance or things like that. You don't need to save into a 401k anymore, right? So we don't have to add that expense because now you're retired. And what are those bucket list trips? Oh, I want to go to Ireland. Okay, well, maybe that's $15,000. All right, so Steve is going to add up that $10,000 a month net, which seems to be doing the trick now. He's going to add the $15,000 Ireland trip. Then he's going to add the cost for Medicare. Then he's going to add, how much taxes we're going to pay. And taxes are going to be based upon what the plan is in terms of you taking money out. If you're taking money out of a brokerage account, a TOD, the tax consequences of that is going to be a lot different than if you pulled money out of an IRA, right? So again, the professional, or hopefully yourself, is able to do that calculation to figure out how much taxes you have to pay. So that's usually the route that I go, Steve, is just figuring out where they're at now. And of course, if they are at a surplus and they are saving money from that $10,000 a month that they're getting, then I know just to minus that out. And then, like you said, there's no set it and forget it plan, right? There's always going to be adjustments because they've never retired before. And so we always tell that to clients, you've never retired before. So we're going to make these assumptions, but as the year goes on, maybe you find yourself not going out as much as you planned, or maybe those trips costing a little bit more. And that's where your retirement income plan or whatever your financial plan needs to be reviewed, periodically to make sure everything's still in line. And my analogy for this is, if you remember years back with MapQuest, right? Hey, going back to that wedding analogy, hey, it's 2 hours away. That's what MapQuest says. Okay, hey, those are the directions, and it might take you 2 hours, but if you're using Google Maps or Waze, and all of a sudden there's an accident on your way there, Waze and Google Maps are going to reroute you, and they're going to say, hey, no, go this route because now it's going to get you there on time. Whereas, a MapQuest printed out from a day or two prior, it doesn't know about that accident. And that's why it's so important to periodically review these, retirement income plans or whatever the financial plan is to make sure that, things are in line with that destination of what you need. And when it comes to that, Steve, talk to us about, because what if there is an accident on my way to that wedding? What do you do for your clients to kind of show them the different what if scenarios that might come up, whether it's what if the stock market crashes, what if taxes go up? Talk to us about, software that you may use or how you kind of plan around those what ifs.
Yeah. So, like we talked about, it's the what ifs that are most important. It's the concerns that are most important. So one concern for someone may not be a concern for somebody else. So I go back to drilling down to understanding what priorities that you have for retirement, or for any savings goal, what concerns that you have. And then from there, using planning techniques, using different software to be able to illustrate those what if scenarios. So you first get an understanding of what would happen if that did happen. And now you're in a position, again, we talk about planning, right? The sooner that you're able to do that planning, the better off that you're going to be able to be, is because now you know what could happen. Question is, are you okay with it? Do you want to try to solve this? Or do you want to try to begin to solve it? All right? It doesn't always have to be solved right away. It's a process. So once you understand kind of what could happen and what that impact would be, to your retirement, to your portfolio, to your estate, then the next question is, okay, what can we proactively do, whatever technique that is, to be able to mitigate or eliminate that what if scenario? Okay, great, we did that. Let's move on to the next one. So it's a lot of going back and forth. It's a lot of just making sure that whatever it is, whatever scenario we're looking at, first understanding what that scenario could do. Because here's the thing, you may look at it and say, actually, that's not that bad. So, okay, you know what? We thought it was going to be bad, but look, actually, you're okay. It won't really impact you. Let's get to the next one. Let's move on. Or the flip side is, okay, we should probably do something about this. Let's spend some time to focus on implementing the strategies the right way so that we can alleviate this issue in the future.
Yeah, getting rid of all those, possible hiccups that may deter you from getting right to that destination.
Yep.
Talk to us about, I guess like the discipline that a financial plan kind of creates, right? So I know, I think it's Warren Buffett or someone talks about, you want to pay yourself first, right? So making sure that, you are saving for retirement. You want to make sure that, everything is kind of in track. So talk to us about, I guess, like what that financial plan kind of brings to the table for an individual.
I think, it comes back down to anxiety levels. A lot of times when we hear it all the time, right, Jeff? It's I'm concerned because I don't have a plan. I don't like the way that makes me feel. I'm constantly thinking about it. But I don't know what to do, right? Again, it's the anxiety that causes some of the inaction. And when the anxiety starts hitting, and then the inaction starts happening, it starts to snowball, and then nothing gets done. So I think that's just it. Having the plan provides the discipline because it helps alleviate some of that anxiety. Once that anxiety is eliminated, and again, this is roughly speaking, everyone has a plan for their own reason. I'm not saying everyone is planning because they have so much anxiety over it. It may be just because they want to know, whether it's anxiety or whether it's they just want to know what they're doing is correct, or is there a better way to do it?
Yeah.
Right. And so again, in either of those situations, having that plan, it provides the discipline because you now know what to do. You have that roadmap.
Yeah.
Right.
And so again, diving back into your point about anxiety, right? We get anxiety because we're really unsure of then that next outcome, right? What's going to happen, right? But if someone created a retirement income plan, whether it's themselves or with an advisor, and they had a plan for all the possible, again, what ifs, like the market crashes, what if taxes go up? If they had a plan for that, then when those items come about or they're discussed over the news, they may not be freaking out about it or having that anxiety attack because they know, oh yeah, well, no, if the stock market does crash, I'll still be able to retire, but I'll only be, leaving X amount toward the kids, but I know it's not going to affect me. And we always, kind of talk about, some of the, happiest retirees are those with pensions, right? Because they know that the money's coming in. There's no anxiety of what's going on in the market because the money's going to hit, the first Wednesday of every month. So if the stock market crashes, doesn't matter. They're getting their paid, right? They're getting their check. So having that plan to create it so that, regardless of what's going out on the outside, regardless of what's going on down in Washington, what the stock markets are doing, what the Fed is doing, how much it costs to get on a flight and go to Europe or go to Florida, whatever the case is, they have that plan, right? And so that should remove that anxiety. But the other anxiety that I see in some of my clients is the idea of going from accumulation to distribution, right? Because they have created a habit of 40 years worth of working, and saving and saving and saving. And all of a sudden they're being told, hey, don't save anymore. Now just start taking money out and hopefully it's going to be okay. Right. Yeah. But having that plan would remove that anxiety of the fear of running out of money. Right. Talk to us about, I guess, when you're constructing, let's say I'm John Smith, I come to you and I say, hey, I want to retire. What are some of the strategies that you'd utilize to help get someone away from having that anxiety of running out of money or retiring in 2007, right before the market crashes or whatever the case might be?
Right. It all starts with the plan, not to sound redundant, but, from our standpoint, we heavily believe in a philosophy called the bucket plan, right? Where it's segmenting your assets based on time and purpose. And we'll probably have another, episode about that. But whether it's the bucket plan, whether it is another form of retirement income planning, it's making sure that you're still able to kind of do what you were doing, but maybe just tweak it a little bit so that you have the ability. From our standpoint, we want to segment into 3 buckets. Very simple: a now bucket, a soon bucket, and a later bucket. All right. The now bucket, liquid cash, emergency savings, planned expenses. The soon bucket, that's the ability for you to take that income. Yeah, you want to maybe be a little more conservative with that. But on the flip side now, what happens is you allow that later bucket to have the rest of your money where you can take a tilt towards growth. So you have a time horizon. Right? You have a time horizon that you bought with the now and soon. Time horizon about 10 plus years or so. So that allows the rest of your money to grow. So you can still kind of do the types of strategies that you were doing, but maybe you're just tweaking some areas. And again, I don't want to kind of get too much into it, but the biggest thing is just making sure that you follow a process, whatever that is, to allow you to live the lifestyle that you want to live, maximize the income that you want in retirement, reduce taxes, and mitigate a lot of the risks that you could see so that you have a better outcome for yourself and for your family.
Yeah, I think it's not even so much towards retirement income planning, right? It's towards all aspects of, life. If I'm 30 years old and I'm looking to buy my first house, the last thing I want to do is put all of my eggs, all my money that I had saved for down payment into Facebook stock.
Right.
Right. And then, oh, I found the perfect house. I'm going to go make an offer. And all of a sudden Facebook plummets by 30%. Right. So it's making sure that, you have that appropriate plan to, segment your money based off like when you need it.
Yeah.
Right. So like to your point, if I'm, like my daughter's going to college, and she's a senior in high school, the last thing I want is her entire 529 or college savings money to, again, be invested in 100% equities where there could be a lot of volatility. Obviously it's a lot easier to talk about when it comes to retirement income planning, right? But again, all aspects of life.
No, that's great. That's actually a very good point, right? I mean, we have bucket plans. We talk about a lot of the younger, especially if you're high, your high earning years, right? Have the ability to segment your money, like you just mentioned. So perfect, love it.
So one thing I wanted to kind of do is, a few case studies, right? To kind of talk about, some situations that we've seen, whether it's good or bad, whether the person had a plan or didn't have a plan. So the one client that I wanted to bring up, we'll call him Jim. Jim came to us. We did, we met, but he decided not to engage with us and kind of do things his own. He was in a very fortunate situation, retired at age 60, had a great job, great savings, but he didn't really have a plan. And while he was a pretty good trader and smart when it comes to the markets and to investing and things like that, he wasn't aware of a lot of the different tax benefits for certain accounts versus others. So when we finally did reconnect with Jim years later, this is what happened. Jim retired at 60. He had, let's pretend he had $1 million in his savings account, and he had $2 million in retirement accounts. Again, he was age 60. He was not working anymore. For the next 6 years, he continued to live off his cash savings instead of touching his retirement accounts because he wanted that money to grow, right, for retirement. Steve, talk to me about why Jim in this situation made a pretty big mistake having no working income for 6 years and lived off money that he had in his savings account at Bank of America versus touching his retirement account.
2 words. Standard deduction. Did I get it?
Yep.
Yes. No, go ahead.
So for example, I don't know what's the standard deduction at today? 30,000 roughly.
Lower, but
let's easy math. Let's pretend it's 30,000.
Yeah.
So for this guy Jim, if Jim took out $30,000 from his retirement account, because of the standard deduction, it would have offset that, and he would have paid no taxes on that money. And then the money beyond that, his tax rate is such in a low environment that he would have only been paying possibly 10 or 12% in taxes anyway. But instead, what happened over the 6 year period, his IRA grew, which is great. But now that's going to create kind of a trickle down effect when the time comes that he wants to start taking money out and RMDs, Social Security, and everything like that. So when he's, let's say, 67 and collecting Social Security, well, that standard deduction is going to kind of eat that up now. And so now the money that he does finally pull out of his retirement account is going to get taxed at higher levels. So for this particular client who, again, didn't have a plan and just thought that all money is created equal, and we'll do another episode on this, on how money is not created equal. Every account has different pros and cons, especially when it comes to taxes. But for this client, there were 6 years where he basically did not get the standard deduction, right? So we figure, he could have taken out $30,000 from his retirement account tax-free. That's, $180,000, right? 30,000 times 6, again, rough numbers. $180,000 that he kind of pushed down the road that he'll definitely pay taxes on, as opposed to if you would withdrew that and had a plan, he would have paid nothing on it.
That's it. Yeah. And it's use it or lose it. Like you mentioned, you can't go back in time, so it's gone. So the tax management piece is critical to any type of plan, and we'll dive deeper into those.
There's no do-overs, right? It's not like my bathroom renovation where I can just call the contractor and he can fix everything like that. and get my wife off my back, right? Nope. It's either you do it or you don't. See, give me I guess a case study from one of your clients that you've.
Yes, it's similar, but we always talk about the tax management, because many times when we're looking to put plans together, you really have to look at the tax impact, right? That the decisions that you make, any type of financial or retirement planning decision, you really want to incorporate strategic tax management into those decisions, because returns are great, but if taxes are eating into those returns, they're not as great. So very similar and very high level, but we were working with somebody who didn't have a plan. We sat down with them and we laid out what the plan was going to be. They had a lot of money. In this case, it was a lot of money that was sitting in their what we call non-qualified in savings accounts, CDs. The issue with rates now that are higher, right? Always remember, interest is taxed at the highest marginal tax rate, right? It's taxed at the highest marginal tax rate. So that interest that they thought they were getting wasn't really, in fact, what they were getting. The other issue was that they had large retirement account balances that were sitting in pre-tax IRAs. And tax, going back to concerns, right? Having those conversations, one of the biggest concerns, the number one concern that they had was paying less in taxes, having a tax-efficient plan. And so that was really what we drilled down on. So, two things just to take away. There was a lot more, but just two things just to kind of give a couple pieces. The first thing, they wanted to implement Roth conversions. All right. Well, here was the issue. A lot of the non-retirement money, they had a significant amount there as well. It was generating a lot of interest. That interest was falling on their tax return. All right. That interest now, again, taxed at the highest marginal tax rate, it's eating into their tax brackets, along with other things. And so that interest was a significant piece that they were paying taxes on. It really prevented them from executing an efficient Roth conversion strategy. Long and short, we had recommended putting some of the money, the majority of the money, segmenting the money now sooner or later, again, but putting some of that money into municipal bonds, okay, that were tax-free. Now, yes, you have to add some of that interest back when looking at provisional income and when it comes to Medicare, but they were younger, so we didn't have to worry about that. So we freed up their tax bracket, right? Because that interest wasn't falling on their return.
To execute the Roth conversion.
Exactly. And then we were able to execute their Roth conversion and do them. And we added some other charitable giving strategies to widen the ability for them to do higher tax conversions, Roth conversion.
Yeah.
Especially this year, next year, right? We talked about that, but this year, next year, and then 2026, things are going to be changing. We don't want to give away too much, but yeah. Jeff, just as a overview. So the bottom line is just making sure, I think you said it earlier, you want the right investments in the right accounts to grow into the right tax conditions. And that is key.
Yeah. Because it's not about what you earn, right? It's about what you keep.
Yeah.
So having assets in different types of accounts can free you up to do some of those strategies, like you mentioned with the Roth conversion, by just, again, still getting that safe return, but getting it in a different place allows you now to execute those strategies. I think that's a great point. Another case study that I want to talk about was a client that did have a retirement income plan. And for this person, we'll call them John. John had a retirement income plan. And again, just going back to like the driving example to the wedding, right? We've all seen it. Google Maps, Waze tells you it's going to take you 2 hours, but maybe you're from Jersey and maybe you speed it a little bit, right? You maybe did 80 miles an hour when you're supposed to only do 65, and you took time off the destination, right? So you got there a little bit earlier. Well, same thing with, retirement income planning, right? So if you did a retirement income plan and you said, hey, you know what? This is my destination. This is where I want to be. And I'm going to assume that my investments are going to grow at a 5 or 6% return, up until I get there. And then it turns out that they actually did a little bit better. Well, what happens? Well, in this situation for John, John found himself in a situation where he was able to retire, him and his wife were able to retire 2 years earlier, simply because we exceeded expectations or the certain assumptions. So again, we assume pretty conservatively, but then, again, when the, rubber hit the road, so to speak, he was able to retire earlier at that same living or lifestyle expectations that they had planned on. Now, of course, if they were in a situation where, you know what, Jeff, I don't want to retire now, well, then when that time did come, they would have just been able to spend more money, right? So those are just few case studies on why, again, having a plan can get you maybe to that destination a little bit sooner. And at the same time, not having a plan could cause you to lose out on certain strategies, right? Being able to execute certain strategies like Steve had mentioned, or lose out on possibly saving thousands of dollars with taxes. And that's where, again, having that ability to create a plan is going to put you in a better situation. So before we tail off, Steve, any last words when it comes to the importance of creating, a roadmap, right? A wealth roadmap, whether it's for someone going into retirement or whatever it might be?
My video may have froze, but that's all right. We deal with technical difficulty sometimes with the first round. I think what I would say is stay tuned. We're gonna talk a lot more about this topic, and other topics, but that's our goal. So looking forward to spending time with you and providing as much insight as we can.
Great. Yeah. So we'll so this concludes episode 1. We hope you guys enjoyed it. If there are if there's anything that you would like for us to dive deeper on, please let us know in the comments or reach out to us, and we'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have. But whether it's learning how to invest or doing certain things about certain execution strategies, about finances or planning or anything like that, again, the biggest, most crucial step is having a plan and knowing what your destination looks like to help you get there. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Take it easy.
See you later. Bye.
Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed our podcast, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on topics you'd like for us to cover on future episodes. We'll see you soon.
Financial planning and advisory services are offered through Prosperity Capital Advisors, PCA, an SEC-registered investment advisor with its principal place of business in the state of Ohio. One Team Financial LLC and PCA are separate, non-affiliated entities. PCA does not provide tax or legal advice. Insurance and tax services offered through One Team Financial LLC are not affiliated with PCA. Information received from this video should not be viewed as individual investment advice. Product discussions and illustrations are hypothetical in nature and will vary based on many factors, including, but not limited to, age, health, product, insurance carrier, and product design. You should consult the insurance carrier website and policy for detailed information. Content may have been created by a third party and was not written or created by a PCA-affiliated advisor and does not represent the views and opinions of PCA or its subsidiaries. For information pertaining to the registration status of PCA, please contact the firm or refer to the investment advisor public disclosure website. For additional information about PCA, including fees and services, send for our disclosure statement as set forth on Form ADV from PCA using contact information herein. Please read the disclosure statement carefully before you invest or send money.